I have a true entrepreneur and a friend, Devan Kline. He is the CEO of Burn Boot Camp, 38 states, over 400 franchises around the country. My man, welcome to the Playbook.
Dude, I'm excited to be here with you, especially. Thank you for having me. And thank you to your team for putting this together. We at Burn Nation loves the playbook.
That's awesome. Well, I want to start with a really good topic, one of my favorite, because not only is it important in your life through your journey, which I want to get into, but your business is really driven by it. And it's one of my favorite things called pain. And I know people are like, "What is Dave Meltzer, a masochist?" No, I'm not. But I believe pain is crucial. People have to understand pain and manage pain and be aware of pain in order to facilitate their potential. And one of those areas that I see through when you were a child is that pain was never a stop sign for you. Mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, financial pain. Devan Kline has taken that not as a stop sign, but as a turn signal. He is a classic example of someone that said, okay, there's pain in my life. I'm going to use it to learn something, to move in a better place, a better direction, in a better situation. But for God's sake, it's not going to stop me, and including building your business. Where does that philosophy or awareness about pain start in your journey?
That's a great question, and I think it really starts with having no place to go when you feel the pain. It's like if you're at the bottom and you're feeling that pain, for example, as a 12-year-old boy, and I'm physically in fist fights with my father and things like that. That's a type of pain that a 12-year-old should never go through, and that's just the G-rated version of the story. We can get into it deeper if you'd like to, but at the end of the day, when I would get up from a tussle or remove my head from the drywall, at the end of the day, it's like you have something to deal with as a 12-year-old, as a little boy. It's like, what does this mean? And thankfully, I chose that it didn't mean that I was bad, but that my father had made bad choices. And that's the axiom to understanding how to use pain in the right way, is to have a correct association with how that situation or that event or that circumstance came to be in the first place. And so now fast forward to today, I can snap back to that moment or those one or two fundamental moments in my life, growing up in Battle Creek, Michigan, being on welfare. Like my mom drugged me around the United States from the time I was, 4 years old till around 10 years old. And, and you didn't really start experiencing the physical alcohol abuse, the drug abuse, until I was old enough to it, like 10, 11, 12 years old. And it was like, a constant battle with my father for acceptance and for love. And the only way that he would really give me those things is if I did well in sports, is if I pitched well. It's like, and the expectations were very high. And so because of that, I think it made me strong. And I had always created this association with my father, that it was never what I was doing that was necessarily the reason for his misbehavior, but it was just a lack of fulfillment in his own life, and, having 5 children by 4 different women, and, going hard on booze. And I could go in my living room table and open up the bowl on my coffee table and find cocaine in it. It was like, that was the type of environment that I lived in. Cops in and out of the house, it seemed like every week as a young boy. And, you go through these things and it's like, okay, well, where else do I go? Nowhere. 'Cause I'm already kind of here. And, there were situations on the planet that I could partake in. Sure, there is, but this still isn't a desirable one. And, so what does that mean? And I think the thing that saved me is I had the opportunity early on to understand. And I think that might be a DNA thing, or it might be just a realization or a God-given thing. But I ended up, I can remember specifically in a moment, just disassociating any blame or any guilt personally, and understanding that it was projection of pain. My father was projecting his own pain onto me. And, for that, I've been able to deal with things pretty handily since.
Yeah, really well. And, had Sugar Ray Leonard on the Playbook, and him and I both were victims of abuse as well. And we're talking about the layers that as they unravel as we get older, and how we black out and block out certain things as well, which is how we manage pain, to take it in bite-sized pieces. But one of the other interesting things that you said, and I can tell, is that a lot of people make it their excuse, right? Pain, and I truly believe everybody has something happen in their lives. Something happens that it shouldn't happen. Let's just put it that way. It's innate, and you have a choice at that moment. Am I going to be a victim, or is this going to be my story? Am I going to be a victim, or am I a participant in this? And Sugar Ray helped me because I blacked out. I was 9 years old when I was abused by a relative, and I blacked it out. I literally, until that person passed away when I was in law school, I literally didn't even think about it. I blacked it out, and then the layers started to come out. What are some of the lessons, as you see the impact of this experience when you were young come out while you experience other types of disappointment, pain, or challenges, where you have the choice to be a participant, to learn the lessons, to not be a victim, to make it your story? Because as an entrepreneur, there is some benefit to just straight physical abuse compared to entrepreneurial abuse. the pain when someone puts your head through a drywall, the pain goes away a lot quicker than some of the stuff that we go through as entrepreneurs. But yet the lessons really have helped me. And what are some of those layers that have unraveled as you're building a huge company?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's I most recently during the pandemic period, you see contemporaries who I'm a younger entrepreneur. I just turned 33 in October, and I see some of my contemporaries. It has nothing to do with age, but I see some of them in the position that I'm in. Is I'm a younger CEO, and so some of the things that they're dealing with now at maybe 48, 55, 60 years old, or some of the things that some of the emotions can be mapped to situations that I had to deal with when I was 14, 15, 16 years old. Imagine you wake up one day and you can hear your parents bickering upstairs, but it's more than a bicker. It's an escalated, almost full on brawl. And you walk upstairs, and the first thing that you see is your mother holding her hand and squirting blood all over the wall. And you're a kid and you're like, what's going on? And then she says, well, your father cut my finger off. And I look down at her finger, and at the knuckle, the first knuckle, it's just gone. And they had partied real hard, got into it one night, woke up the next morning, probably still inebriated, got in a pushing match and slammed her finger in the door. Right. And it's like, I had to deal with that. Seeing my mother, who, when you're a young boy like that, like, you have the utmost love and respect for your mother, regardless of, because you don't even know really what they're doing to you yet. Right.
Right.
And so if you can walk in and see your mom, the person you love the most, with half of her finger cut off, and have to be able to then go to school and hold yourself and play a football game later that evening, you're able to, your emotional threshold of control, it widens and expands really, really fast. And so my threshold of what I could control emotionally, or some might call it like a fortitude, my emotional fortitude it's been compounding and building since I was a little boy, since my mom started moving me around to random states. And my life as a young boy was just, kind of in shambles. And, that lasted all the way up until I was like 18, until I went to Central Michigan University. Fire up chips. Anybody out there is a Chippewa? Let's go. I continued to go through those moments. And the last one I went through was actually when I was 18, and we went on like as I mentioned, my family wasn't very financially well off, but we scrounged up enough to get on our senior trip with some of my friends. And, he came with me, and, we got a full out fist fight right in front of everyone. He started drinking, and, we were international waters. So I was drinking a little bit too, but it's pretty sad that, my father and I got in a fist fight in front of the senior trip crew. And so from moving around to 7 states, and all the fights and all the cops and all the arguments and drugs, and there's some pretty deep stuff that we don't need to go into, but through all that, you expand your threshold of control. And so then when you get to a situation like maybe I had to shut all of my gyms down, David, I had to shut. So March 17th, that order comes out, I get through our ticketing system in our business, all of our franchise partners are like, hey, this is real. Like this is happening. Our municipality is putting these guidelines around us and we're getting ready. They're going to shut us down. Like, so obviously as a morally obligated CEO and wanting to take care of our community, sure. We shut them down. Let's follow protocol. We have no idea what this thing is. Right. And so like that would crush most people. But I was freaking motivated by it. I'm like, okay, awarding 400 locations in 5 years I'm not saying that I'm not grateful for it. It wasn't a challenge, but it was becoming increasingly easier to execute. And so when I got this wrinkle thrown away, not that I want to wish that upon my system or wish that upon our business, like we just had January, February this year, biggest months ever, breaking records month over month. Of course, I don't want that stuff to stop, right? But it did. And how are you going to handle it? Because it's like, what you're getting is it and how you're growing and the records that you're breaking, that's not what defines you. It's what defines you is when the shit hits the fan, in the moment when you're walking through that fire, who are you going to become? And who I am is, and who I'm becoming and will become is all a representation of the emotional fortitude, an expansion of that in which I started when I was a young boy. And so now it's like, I'm not in my feelings, if you will, about any one situation. I truly have perspective, and I'm anchored in the perspective of coming from 84 Pleasant Avenue, Battle Creek, Michigan, growing up in the projects and those types of things. So that's why people say that their biggest advantage was their greatest disadvantages. And that's why most really successful entrepreneurs like yourself and myself, often driven by what we didn't have rather than what we did have.
Because it develops that threshold of control. Yeah. It develops a mindset and a heart set. And I know in your book, Stop Starting Over, you really delve into the mindset and the heart set that it takes. And what I think is really interesting is the reason I see your business succeeding, and I'm blessed to have analyzed thousands of businesses and thousands of entrepreneurs, is not only the commonality that you must be what you can be, which, like you said, is either God-given, developed, or some combination thereof. But even moreover, it's this idea that your personality, your lessons have been invoked authentically into the business. So you've taken these lessons, empowered your franchisees to empower the other people that are the participants and members at the Burn Bootcamp. And if you look at Burn Bootcamp and you see the energy, the frequency, the messaging, the definition of what it is, it's you, Devan, right? It's the things that you are to have the fortitude, to have consistent behavior, to be able to, when your day's so busy and the kids are this and this and this, the people that are healthy are the ones that have that emotional control, the ones who can stay focused and go back to school after seeing their mom's finger hanging off and still play a hell of a football game that night. It takes about the same if you're a busy mom. I had one of those days yesterday, just real quickly, because I want to give real life examples of what you deal with, your franchisees deal with, the people who come and are in the Burn Bootcamp, what they deal with. Right. My day was a normal day, which is very active, but you throw into the loop, your daughter accidentally leaving the sink on and it flooding half of the house, and then saying, I don't know what happened. I didn't leave the water on, but it just magically came on. And then when the plumber came out, I said, no, there's no clogs here. There's no pipe problem. I know that sounds like one little thing, but if you're going and you're owning a business, a Burn Bootcamp, or you're going to work out that day, how many people go, right? That's my thing. How many people can just literally look up? And I think people who have worked with me, for me, through me, as you, are just amazed when somebody calls and said, oh, by the way, all 400 of your franchises are shut down and we have a new rule, nobody can work out. That there's people like you and I that have a very high threshold, and there's that movie, You're a Pitcher. So you were a pitcher, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yep. I forget the name of the movie where he created the zone. Like he was on the mound and everything else would shut off and all he saw was the catcher's mitt. It was one of the Disney, baseball movies. That's the way.
I think it was Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, Rookie. Rookie. Yeah. And I forget the word that, Costner or whoever that was a pitcher. But that's the way that my life feels. I said, I'm most embarrassed when the little shit's happening and I lose my mind over ego-based conscious, like I'm hanger. But like when serious stuff comes down, I got laser tunnel, like nothing bothers me. I have a threshold that's beyond belief. You know, my father passed away and everyone was so just like taken back how I still stayed focused on what I had to do and took care of everything unemotionally. But then when I'm hungry, my wife could say one little thing and next thing I'm like talking to Boris. You know, as we kind of run through the time here, I'd love to see how all the philosophies and Stop Starting Over, your great book, all the things that you have learned, where do you see the reflection of Devan Kline in the Burn Bootcamp?
Well, it's everywhere. You know, to your point, it is literally the DNA of my brand, and really it's become bigger than me at this point to where it's our brand, and, you know, even our clients' brand, because you start to when you mirror a company after your own core philosophy and identities, you mirror your company that way, you're putting yourself in your own fortitude into the brand and into the leadership position as the founder, CEO, whatever title that you have. And we all know, and John C. Maxwell had said it in his great book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, that the law of the lid, baby, it's like law number one. If, you know, your cap is the organization's cap. And so, you know, if you don't have the emotional fortitude to kind of bring in and introduce to the brand, well, then, you know, you better get some really quickly, or you're not going to have that great of a time as an entrepreneur, because things go wrong. And when they go wrong, and it's all on you. And you're the one that has to, you know, I think, who says it? Gary Vee says, eat the dirt or something. He's like, you're always eating the dirt, always eating the crap at the top of the organization. And it's very, very true. And so now, the same way that I'm able to have that, like we said, threshold of control, our organization is too. And because I'm influencing and inspiring them, they're influencing and inspiring their people. It's the same reason why you say that you say like, listen, I'm going to help 1 billion people. And I don't care who tells me if it's crazy or not, because I know that if I can just affect 1,000 that affect 1,000, and they can take some of my character and use that as the shoulders to stand on for their own character, well, then hell, that goal's not too far away. And it might seem crazy when you say it, like people think I'm crazy because I want to open 10,000 Burn boot camps. Well, hell yeah, I'm crazy. And if you're not crazy, then I don't think that you are ever going to do something even remotely good. You got to be a little crazy. You got to be a little out there, and, you know, to be able to handle some of these things. So how do you build the emotional fortitude to handle it? That's an interesting question. You got to go through it. And when you do, and you act out of, you know, your authentic core self, dude, I think that then your brand can become this living and breathing thing that other people actually incorporate their own identity with. And when you've done that, like an Apple, right? You've done that like a Burn. You know, our clients are changing their Instagram handles, changing their Facebook URLs, changing their Twitter handles to Burn Sally 427, because they love what we do the most. It's like, this has transcended fitness for them in such a way where we call them the Burn Sisters. And all of our locations have just these amazingly dedicated group of Burn Sisters that are clients, and, 400, 500 at a gym. And look, it's incredible to see. It's incredible to me. I just had a group of them in here today. We're doing live stream workouts every Tuesday, free to the public. If anybody would like to join us on YouTube, Burn Bootcamp. And we are featuring one of our locations every Tuesday. Today, we featured Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I got a chance to speak with them afterwards. And they talk like me. They think like me. It's not in a overconfident sense. It's like, it actually does trickle down. Like, what you do and say matters actually so much that as an entrepreneur, you really gotta watch not only the words that you say, the actions that you take, but how those are going to trickle down out into the world and out to the community, because that is your footprint as an entrepreneur. And if you can create something that becomes a part of people's identity, there's no pandemic that's going to take away from that.
No, and those thresholds that you've created for others and empowered others with are incredible, which is a testament to the growth and acceleration and success that you're having, even in difficult times, accelerated change. The book itself, you know, utilizing that at such a young age is so interesting, because you talk about the people becoming what you think, say, and do. And that doesn't happen without authenticity. It doesn't happen without a strong frequency that you have. It's not what you think, say, and do, it's what they hear. And when they start hearing what you mean to think, say, and do, and not what you think you're thinking to say and do, that's when you know you have the authentic self. That's when you know that you have the capability. You know, I think of your business, Goggins, who I love, right? When you're first think about quitting, you're only 40% away to your of the way to your potential. I always say when people start laughing at you, telling you can't do it, when they finally pay attention to a point where you're annoying them, you're not even 40% of the way where you're at the limit of where you could be. And that's a key indicator, just like pain's an indicator in turn signal. People laughing at you, scoffing at you, telling you can't do anything, what you're talking about is only 40% of what you could be doing. So test yourself, test your limits. That's what the Burn Boot Camp's about, is these thresholds of empowering others just simply to be healthy and happy. And, you know, I'm going to add this in as we finish up, Devan. I want people to know, because wellness is a woo thing, fitness, health, everybody gets onto the spiritual or more romantic side of it. There's nothing that will make you richer than being healthy. There's nothing that will improve your relationships, but nothing will put more bank in your account than being healthy. It's my primary number one unadaptable and adaptable routine. It's minimum of an hour a day on my health. And I subscribe to the philosophies that I've read about in your book, Stop Starting Over, and utilizing it in my own program. And I just want to thank you, man. I think you're going to own, remember, you're going to own I'm going to empower over 1 billion. You'll own over 10,000 franchises. And I can't wait to see it. I'm 52 years old. If you keep doubling every year, do the math from 400, everybody out there, we're 20 years apart. Let's just say, do the math. It'll be far over 10,000. And that's where Devan's going, because he has learned the mindset, the heart set of being successful